To be more focused, powerful knowledge and pedagogy in the Maltese secondary school economics classroom. Therefore, there was a process. I started broad. After my first 2 years, there was focusing upon economics education. And the main theoretical lens was powerful knowledge. In the sense, this is the knowledge that empowers students to move beyond their everyday experiences. They move beyond the experiences they bring from their families. And therefore, I had to inquire, what is this powerful knowledge in economics? That students are entitled to it. What are secondary school students missing when they do not study economics? They do not have the opportunity. In order to address the research questions, I decided to go for a qualitative methodology, especially by observing 14 observation sessions. The table here shows that I sent an invitation to all teachers in Malta and Gozo. There are 24 in all. It's interesting that the subject economics is not taught in the state schools. It is taught in church and independent schools. And then I also interviewed 20 year 11 students. These were finishing their 3-year course in economics. I adopted a thematic analysis. I used NVivo to help in this task. My conceptual lens that I adopted is critical realism. This is also a philosophy which is popular at the University College London. It was made popular by Roy Bhaskar, but it offered me an understanding of a reality that is economics education, which is experienced and interpreted differently by the actors involved, mainly the teachers and the students. There were also, therefore, the ontology is real. There is a reality of economics teaching and learning, but the epistemology is relativist. The way they see it, the participants, is different. I also used other theoretical lenses, which helped me to better understand economics teaching and learning. The notion of threshold concepts, and also pedagogical content knowledge and the knowledge basis for teaching. It was also helpful for me to review economics education, mainly that economics tends to be dominated by the neoclassical school of thought. In order to help me to make sense of the data, there was a huge amount of data. I developed a framework. Mainly this framework illustrates that economics education is characterized by the interaction of those 3 circles: pedagogy, school economics curriculum, and the students' knowledge and experiences. And I tried to analyze thematically and provide answer to my 2 research questions, mainly how and in what ways does school economics empower students with knowledge that takes them beyond their current knowledge? And also, what pedagogical approaches induct students in the discipline of economics? This was the framework that I kept in mind when analyzing the data. Some answers to my research question. First of all, answering the first research question: what is powerful knowledge in multi-school economics? This has two aspects. There is the discipline-based knowledge, and this study argues that these are the economics threshold concepts in Maltese school economics. These are the concepts: scarcity, choice, opportunity cost, marginality, demand and supply analysis, and market structures. This is the theoretical knowledge that students need to grasp in order to start to think in the subject. This is knowledge developed by economic experts within an epistemic community. And that when students grasp these threshold concepts, they are enabled with an economic lens to view what is happening around them. Another aspect of powerful knowledge are the expressions of powerful economics knowledge. What does this knowledge enable the students to do? And there are three aspects. First of all, the first expression is knowledge that enables a deeper understanding of the economic world. It was interesting that students acquired, by studying economics, they acquired economic literacy. They could understand better what is happening around them. Then a higher expression is knowledge that equips students with new ways of economic thinking. For example, by grasping the notion of opportunity cost, they could evaluate their courses of action. And the third expression is knowledge that develops students' criticality of thought in economic issues and their participation in economic debates. For example, they hear a politician claiming something about maybe GDP figures, and they are able to evaluate and criticize the hidden agenda maybe of that politician. Therefore, my study contributes by articulating for the first time what is powerful knowledge in school economics. It has two aspects: the disciplinary knowledge provided by threshold concepts, and what this knowledge enables, empowers the students to do. The other answer to the research question is about pedagogy. What approaches in the classroom assisted the students to engage this encounter with epistemic access? I just giving you a brief taste because there is so rich data from the teachers, from my observations, from the pupils. It's interesting that teachers connected economics to real life. They made that connection. Economics starts from real life. These classes were characterized with an emphasis on learning by heart, because there was an assessment. However, teachers attempted and insisted that students needed to reason economics knowledge. You need to reason it out, not just learn it by heart. To do this, teachers employed their specialist knowledge. They tried to develop PCK representations, representations that assisted the students' encounter with the knowledge involved. They adopted a variety of strategies. The lesson was not dry as dust, but it was brought to life. They tried to be creative and innovative. And also an interesting finding is they cultivated a supportive classroom climate, one where they tried to support their students. And this makes sense because the theory of threshold concepts argues that there is an affective component involved when we learn. especially when we face difficulty in learning, and having a supportive teacher, supportive climate, puts the learner at ease when faced with difficult knowledge. And therefore, my study puts forward this conceptualization. There is the idea of a future tree curriculum, a curriculum characterized by the engagement with the knowledge involved, not just passive absorbing. That's a future one. Not just learning skills and we do not grasp the substantive knowledge, a future two, future two, I just learn the skills, but I do not learn the substantive knowledge, the concepts. A future three curriculum merges the three dimensions of pedagogy: the curriculum, school economics curriculum, and the students' knowledge and experiences to help the students to think in the subject. It is also, underlying it, there is the disciplinary economics knowledge, which is based upon the threshold concepts and the expressions of powerful knowledge. What is this contribution to knowledge? I can modestly say that this research contributes to empirical research in economics education at secondary school level. There is a paucity of research. There is not so much research. And in particular, my study contributes in articulating what is the nature of powerful knowledge in economics. What is this powerful pedagogy? Not just having a discussion and we say, have we learned the concepts involved? Maybe no. That's not powerful pedagogy. Powerful pedagogy is one which enables me to encounter the disciplinary knowledge. Also, I have tried to identify the pedagogical practices that enable epistemic access. And also, a case I would like to make in Malta with the state schools is to make an argument. Listen, these school students have a right to study economics. They are entitled to the disciplinary knowledge which economics provides. It also helps to address the challenge of communicating the educational value of learning economics. Furthermore, it emphasizes the cultivation of a supportive classroom climate for preparing the groundwork so that students can engage with the economics knowledge involved. Another contribution is by providing the students with voice about their learning experience, because much of the work on powerful knowledge and threshold concepts comes from teachers. There is only the teacher's voice involved. And therefore, as a conclusion, this was my research process. It has been a long process. I think I have taught a lot about the data, about the theoretical lenses, and I humbly argue that the contribution is that there is an application of the theory of powerful knowledge to the case of school economics. It provides an attempt at articulating what powerful knowledge is. And by doing so, I argue that all students are entitled to have access to this knowledge. I thank you for, first of all, inviting me to this session, and I hope that it triggers some discussion.
I was, Dr. Macy, I was particularly interested when you talked about on your RQ research question number 1, when politicians make claims and you teach your students how to respond to that. So that I thought, oh, what great fodder or material you have now with maybe at least in the U.S. with the current inflation rate, supply versus demand. You know, so demand raised during COVID and supply shrank, and now we're wondering what happened? Well, why do we have inflation?
That is one of the expressions of powerful knowledge. You know, them giving the students that agency that they can. In fact, one teacher used to tell them, "Do not be parrots, just regurgitate what politicians are saying. Be critical. You have learned, you have mentioned the model, you have learned demand and supply model. Now apply it." That's a powerful expression, you know, that criticality of thought.
I think I need to be reminded of that sometimes.
Yeah.
Well, that does help bridge the gap between here's the theory, now go apply it. Yeah.
We have really good situations now to apply it to.
Very personal to most people.
Mm-hmm.
Emmanuel, you had mentioned that your study was primarily looking at secondary schools. What is the age of the students in secondary schools there in Malta?
Yeah. The age is there are 3 years between 13, 14, and 16. The reason I took this age group is that my course at university prepares student teachers to teach at this level. In reality, they teach also at they finish teaching at higher education. And it's interesting, you know, economics for these students may have the reputation of being quite a difficult study, a difficult subject, even research shows this. But if you have a teacher who has these pedagogical practices, you know, I observe students going enthusiastically to class and asking the teacher, what are we going to learn today? Obviously, there have been some contrasts, but it's refreshing to witness these students looking forward to learn economics. Yeah.
Amelia,
Go ahead.
Judy, Tim, I noticed that you had listed that important part are the teaching strategies that teachers have used. Can you identify specific strategies that they use to engage students and make them excited about what is happening in the world of economics and how it applies to them?
There are quite a number. For example, you know, we are a small island and there was a big storm which damaged the fish farms, and the fish were thrown in the roads, and people were selling this fish, and the teacher told them, listen, this is happening around us. We need to apply it to demand and supply. You have some time to think, and in groups you have to present and justify why the price of fish has fallen. You know, there was a real life event which the teacher has taken on board, and he didn't start from the demand and supply model. He first started from the real life experience, and then he presented the model, and the model was presented not as truth in itself, you know, this is the dogma, demand and supply, this always happens. No, but it was just a tool of understanding what was happening. Other approaches which are noteworthy also is when when students were divided into groups and they had to bounce ideas. You know, I have this idea, I need to listen to the other person, and I listen to the reflection of the other person. No, I move out of my shoe.
Interesting. Thank you.
Yeah. I think this area was quite rich because, as one teacher told me, I am always thinking how to present this knowledge. You know, I'm thinking of a teacher. He's a young teacher, but he tries to learn about the games they are playing. You know, these potions, and you know, he was trying to teach marginal cost. And he brought the example of a health potion which was going down, and he illustrated, I think it was the fourth night game, because many students were playing it. You know, bringing examples from the games they were playing.
Mhm. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I thought it was
Okay.
kind of interesting when you were talking about the school system and that you only had 24 teachers that were teaching economics. And that did you say it was not taught in the regular schools, that it was taught in, where were they being taught economics?
It is not taught in the state schools,
Not in the state schools.
but it is taught in the church schools and independent schools.
Do you know why is it not in the state schools? That seems odd to me as an American.
Yeah, there is quite a history in the sense. When I was a student at state schools, there was I learned accounts and economics. Then there was some sort of political decision to move these out and introduce business studies. And now, just I think 7 years ago, accounting was introduced. I would like to make a case now, once I finish totally. Listen, when these children, they have a right also to learn economics. And the expressions of powerful knowledge, I think they are a logical manner to communicate the reason why it's important that students learn economics. Yeah.
Thank you.
Welcome, Maria.
Any other questions? Okay, well, we have a second speaker, Michelle Gibson. Before we turn to Michelle, I want to thank you again, Emmanuel, for your presentation, and we wish you the best in finishing up your doctoral studies and earning your degree. That's a
Yes.
huge achievement, and invite you to, of course, continue attending our quarterly meetings and see you at the annual conferences. And I know it's very late where you are, so if you want to leave, we will certainly understand, but you're more than welcome to stay.
First of all, Dana, thanks for inviting me, because it was I'm just waiting for my final result. In the sense, I think everything is okay, but I have no official communication. But preparing for this presentation has been a good moment to, you know, to reflect. And while presenting, I was astonished by you know, I was recalling all the work. Thanks so much for your attention. I would love to listen to Michelle. Thank you.
And again, congratulations on your upcoming degree.
Thank
So,
you.
speaking of, so Michelle is a new PhD as well, or doctor. So let's turn it over to Michelle at this point. And Michelle, I think the settings are such that you can take the screen.
All right, we'll see what we can do here.
I'd add, Michelle is also our executive director.
Yes. So let's see if this works. It's been a while since I played Zoom. Are we good? I think. So this was a dissertation I have officially completed as of May of 22. And this was my research. It was using a web-based community as a professional learning community to assist mentoring beginning teachers with veteran retired teachers. And so this has been a huge interest to me. It took me approximately 11 years to get this degree. And this has been my idea since I started the program at Pepperdine University. So with that, the purpose of the study was to explore a web-based environment for beginning teachers and veteran retired teachers within a virtual environment as a way to lower attrition rates within school districts. So that was the main idea. We're starting to see here in the US a huge decline in teachers across K-12. So I was trying to look at different ways of trying to increase attrition rates. There was a major overlying research question. How does a web-based PLC program serve as a means for mentoring new teachers? And then I had two sub-questions. How does the use of the collaborative web-based learning community instill self-confidence in new teachers, preparing them for classroom instruction and classroom management? And what value do veteran retired teachers gain from participating as a mentor? It was a qualitative design case study. So what I was looking at is examining the relationship of the mentor, which were retired veteran teachers, and the mentee. It was a qualitative approach to describe and interpret the perceptions and experiences. And it was exploratory when bounded with a naturalistic setting. In this case, it was Facebook. It was focusing on a single case within a platform, web-based platform. The qualitative exploratory case designed to explore web-based mentoring for beginning teachers and veteran teachers. And it was looking at the relationship between the mentor and the mentee. And it was exploratory design, focusing on the single cases. So we're going to kind of get into my sources of data. So the subjects were beginning teachers, and in this case, it was business and marketing educators in the state of Wisconsin with 4 or less years of teaching. And they were paired with veteran teachers who had 2 or less years until they retired, along with retirees. Then there were artifacts that I used within the virtual community, looking at their posts, their responses, their emojis, their links, their images, so how they reacted within the environment. And then my notes on how to be a part of that space and record it, and keeping myself from being non-biased. So the web-based virtual community was a hidden private group. They had to be invited. I created it in August of 2020. The volunteers were emailed at the beginning of August. Many were entering the community the first weeks of September of 2020 and ending towards the end of November of 2020. This was a challenge because COVID was very near and dear to all of our hearts. And so to get a lot of these volunteers was very difficult just because of the COVID environment in which many of these teachers were a part of. And then with that, 12 individuals were involved with the group. 3 veteran retired teachers and 9 beginning teachers is who I ended up with for this small group of Facebook community members. So what happened was collected data through the peer-reviewed questions, some standard protocols. I had 8 questions in a conversational manner, which were recorded in Zoom. It provided perceptions within a virtual community, the value felt by veteran retired teachers, feelings felt by beginning teachers. And with that was also additional sources. So I pulled from my own notes as I was watching this unfold from September to November. And then also I used the artifacts from the actual Facebook group. So the demographics of the case, the 3 retired veteran teachers, 1 was retired of 33 years of teaching, 2 veterans, 1 retired at the end of the 2021 school year, and this person had 35 years of experience, and the other was retiring at the end of last school year of 2022 with 28 years of experience. 2 were in their 4th year of teaching, 3 were in their 3rd year, 3 were in their 2nd, and 1 was in their 1st. And what I decided to do was ask who had different certifications at the secondary level, because business ed has a little bit less information to be taught than marketing or information technology does. So I asked that question, and there was 5 that had just straight business education certification, and there were 7 that were dual licensed here in the state of Wisconsin. The other question that I thought was important to know for demographics was who were singletons. And in this case, a singleton is a 1-person department within their school. And there were 7 of those in the closed group. So as I said before, I had 2 different pieces of data. One was artifact analysis, and the other was through interviews. And so within the artifact analysis, I looked at 3 different themes out of it. There was informative behaviors, supportive behaviors, and lurking behaviors. And informative were coded with participation, posted with relevance, and was useful to others. There are lots of comments related to ways to deal with the COVID pandemic and ways to engage students who are online while trying to teach in person. So depending on the school district here in the state of Wisconsin, you might have been straight virtual. You might have had a hybrid where some students came to school a couple of days and then they were virtual, and then another group would come in, or they were all face-to-face. So I know different states across the United States were all doing things differently during COVID, but that's how the state of Wisconsin's school districts were set up. The supportive behaviors were including voicing understanding and compassion, concern, encouragement, or connectedness through their responses. And was primarily through text, emojis, and photos. And then lurking behaviors were those that were there, but they did not really actively engage within the community. So they were kind of intimidated by posting in a group full of people, but they were definitely watching. And had I not interviewed these people after the community, I would not have really realized that they were actually looking at the posts and gaining information, even though they did not respond to that information. From there, I had 10 informal interviews. There was 174 coded passages. And from there, I gathered 3 themes. So membership, workplace dissatisfaction, and virtual community experience. And so I'll get into those. So when we were looking at membership, I came up with a community of like-minded individuals who seek learning companions. So because they were all from business and marketing education, they already had that like-mindedness. There were 13 of them that were heavily engaged. There were group dynamics, platform, environment, acceptance, veteran, and beginning educators. So there was a little bit of information I'd like to share with you from different quotes from them. And so for a level of engagement, they were looking at regarding their time. At the start, she was pretty active. There was quite a lot of conversation going on, but as it went on, there was a little bit less. So she didn't see it as much of a benefit. And what we were finding out was as the teachers kept getting further into the school year, they had less and less time to be a part of the community because they were beginning to feel more and more overwhelmed because of the situation that they were dealing with in regards to COVID. The platform, they always wanted to put things out there, but then they would forget about it. And someone thought it was helpful if there was a way to pin something so you would see it more frequently, or a lot of them didn't have notifications on for their the hidden group. So then they would forget about coming back to it and posting or commenting. They did like the group dynamics. They thought it was a very safe place to talk. They liked that it was private and hidden, so not everyone in the Facebook world could see it. They liked how everyone made them feel, just to have that support and resources and feeling that they weren't alone in the world of COVID. Within the environment, they liked that feeling of trust. They liked the positivity. They liked the contributions that people made to one another. They liked acceptance, where it was geared at more of the newer teacher, which was the idea behind my research, was to try and get the mentees, the younger teachers, to feel comfortable in reaching out and asking for assistance. So they really liked that piece. The veteran, I feel like your web-based environment just didn't get enough. She didn't know if, as a mentor, if anybody used anything. So this individual really wasn't sure whether or not what she had to say had any value, because they weren't getting that feedback that they're normally used to in a real face-to-face environment. If they were teaching in a classroom setting, she probably could have helped more. They were struggling because most of it was then online, and most of the veteran retired teachers aren't as comfortable teaching online. So they weren't sure how they could help that young teacher in the online environment. The beginning teacher liked the small group, and even though it was a short amount of time, there was a lot of nuggets of information, especially as a new teacher. So this individual really thought it was helpful to have just a non-biased group where they could speak freely without worrying about administration or other teachers within their school. And they liked it because it built their confidence, where they could kind of go from being the new person to actually contributing or mentoring. So this individual, Betty, she started within the Facebook group really kind of quiet, and by the end she was the one that was posting the most. So that feeling of confidence definitely came through for her. What was really interesting was workplace dissatisfaction. And so through this community, things started to come up, and asking them how could school districts get help them more. They were saying that being a singleton sometimes doesn't help. So within Wisconsin schools, many are paired with more of a middle, like 8 to 10 years of teaching, but it's not necessarily in their discipline. So the singletons really struggle with trying to do 8 to 10 preps and then being paired with an English teacher. And that English teacher might only have the one English 9 class. And so for them to ask, how can this mentor of mine help me when she doesn't, or he doesn't have that many preps, or doesn't understand the content I'm teaching, that was frustrating for them. They also looked at lack of self-worth, and I will share that comment. they felt a little overwhelmed to ask questions because they seem like they're not the most intelligent questions. And so that's how they would feel if they weren't in an online environment. So they felt they're nervous to say something. And that lack of self-worth was very evident in the beginning teachers more so than the veteran teachers. There's just a few more comments. The one thing that was really, really prevalent was well-being, and just the feeling of despair, I guess, was what was really going on in the COVID world. It still kind of is a little bit. Some of my friends that are still teaching in the public sector at the secondary level really kind of still feel that their well-being is not really looked after, and that they're struggling to keep up with students that are missing 10 to 14 days. It's not as prevalent anymore, but even last school year, there was still some kids out for that long of a time because then they had to be quarantined. And so there was posts about how do you keep yourself from wearing out and feeling fatigued all the time. And so there was quite a few posts on well-being within the Facebook group, and finding out that everyone's feeling the same way, which made them feel better, as bad as that may sound. Virtual community experience. How did they like collaborating in a collective space? So there were quite a few themes in this. So there was reflective practice, the psychosocial functions, social relations, flexibility, just being informal, the ability to access, and timing. And so basically within psychosocial functions, they didn't have to, if you had a question, you didn't feel like they didn't understand why you were asking it. And so because of everybody having the same discipline, they felt very comfortable asking questions about different strategies for a business class, or how do they handle presentations when 3/4 of their class was online and the other 1/4 was physically in the classroom. So there was a lot of questions, and they didn't feel like there wasn't a reason why they weren't asking it. For social relations, they felt there was a professional aspect to it, and being a part of those groups, they liked the virtual space with the supportive understanding of, again, the similar minded people. So they were really happy with that. They liked that everybody was in the same discipline. They liked the flexibility of being anywhere, to being able to connect anytime, anywhere. So most of them were all on their phones with the app. And so they would just go on their phone right before they would leave school, or sometimes if they were on a bus for a sporting event, they could just quickly react to a comment or an idea. They liked the informalness of it. A lot of schools in the state of Wisconsin have forced professional development where they're working with their mentor or mentee, and it's on a day in November, and then they don't see them again until April or May. And so to them, they like that informalness because they could talk to that person anytime, any day, rather than being in a locked time. Sometimes the timing was an issue because they would see the notification, or they would see a comment, or they would see a post, and then they would forget about it because they were en route or they were going to be teaching their next class. And for reflective practices, they thought it was nice to go back and reread or relook at the resources or the links that were shared. And so they were able to then say, hey, I remember somebody posting about, I think it was accounting, like a strategy to teach. And so then they went back and would be able to pull that resource. And so it gave them the ability to reflect on different strategies that were being posted. And again, just being able to access at your convenience. So from the data that was collected, I ended up with 3 conclusions. So conclusion 1 was an effective PLC for new teachers needs to be small and provide a safe environment for interactions with peers and experienced educators, which led to the feelings of trust and acceptance. So Kathy Cram is a huge person in the workplace for mentoring, and Albert Bandura and Wagner et al. Etienne Wagner is a person for communities of practice. Relationships allow the ability to show security, and social participation allowed for the interactions and meeting. And then it also supported the research work of Bandura and Cram in developing relationships, essentially provides self-efficacy. Small groups equal the desire of higher engagement, especially for beginning teachers. The implications was just basically numerous pressures that teachers feel, redesign with a focus on the smaller environment, incorporate connections between singletons with other singletons, so trying to put those 2 together. Conclusion 2, a virtual PLC can facilitate the sharing of strong emotions regarding the intensity of the teaching role and provide some relief to participants. The second conclusion, teachers expect their schools or districts to serve as support and empathy, thus assisting them to feel accepted and understood. The feelings of exhaustion and dissatisfied with the workplace cannot be overlooked. So even though time frame of the virtual community was limited, they felt that it was beneficial just knowing others felt the same. The implications focused on the importance of psychosocial aspects within the environment. Informal virtual community spaces should play a role in creating a space to share feelings, emotions, and connectedness. The ability to communicate with like-minded individuals. So many districts have incorporated occasional options for well-being sessions, but it's forced and not always helpful. So again, they like that informality of the group. Conclusion 3, potential value for veteran retired teachers' participation in a PLC, though there was insufficient evidence of embracing that value. So despite one group not sure if it's provided value, findings still show a positive, safe environment. So that part probably needs to be readdressed. And the last conclusion, Facebook as a virtual space for a PLC may not be the most conducive for mentoring new teachers. Understand that the community and its circumstances, so participants' belief of using Facebook is not the only option of building a virtual community. So some individuals brought up if there was another type of community that could be used versus Facebook. So recommendations for practice: establish a partnership with retired teachers within their districts and or veteran teachers who are close to retiring. Having a supportive network that is empathetic, and that was a major finding of this study, and creating a community with smaller subgroups within. So some of them liked the idea of maybe having people that just taught accounting kind of get together and talk and have a conversation. Recommendations for further research: exploring those who are singletons within their district, focusing on rural areas, possibility to provide additional insight into how to assist, connect, and engage single member departments in smaller communities, and exploring the value veteran retired teachers have for others with less experience in the profession. With a large number of beginning teachers leaving the profession, the need for retaining and lowering attrition rate is critical. And that's what I have.
Thank you so much, Michelle.
You're welcome.
Any questions?
I have to stop sharing.
Oh, there's so much information there. I don't know, but the online teaching and the pandemic, that was a real treat for us. I don't know if you want to call it a treat or not.
Yeah.
But I work at the college, and you know, we did mostly remote during that time, so that was interesting. And you identified one of the things is trust, building trust online is one of the key components to being effective online. But you know, well-being is something else that you pointed out, and that's actually a green paper that we're working on right now about well-being. The identification of it. Do we have it? How can we bring well-being into the school system overall, because of the shock? I call it, like we went through this big shock for 2 years, and now everyone's trying to normalize, you know, their classrooms and normalize their life in general. That's interesting, your study. I'm interested in some of the things that you were talking about.
Oh, good. I'm glad.
Kind of makes me wonder if there could be future studies of the same design in, non-COVID times, and also in other states. I mean, some states are seeing much higher attrition than others because of political and other factors. So I thought that was really interesting. And I like the idea of mentoring and supporting one another. I think that's invaluable. So nicely done.
I was thinking, taking these ideas, we're trying to develop a new faculty orientation for the full year next year for the few new faculty we have, and mentor retirees as mentors. There's some great ideas and they're building trust. I was curious how, I don't think you had an opportunity to check this, but I'm wondering if there'd be a difference in how you pair, say, introverts and extroverts. I will admit, I was never lonely during COVID. But I have a niece who's an extrovert, and she thought she was losing her mind.
It was interesting. The ones that had a big department felt more willing to share in the environment than the ones that were single, because the singletons, I think, were trying to keep their heads above water, and they were young. There was 2 of them that only were in their 2nd year of teaching, and COVID hit, and now they're juggling 6 preps online or hybrid, and they didn't even know like what they were doing. So they weren't as they were willing to talk to me. It was interesting once I started having these interviews what they were really thinking, because some of that just didn't come through in the group. They didn't share those frustrations, or they just said, I was really nervous, I didn't know what to say. And I just kind of said, well, do you think it would have been different if we weren't in COVID? And they said, probably yes, I'd be more willing to share. I think some of it was just so overwhelming, they didn't know how to handle it. And then I asked about administration, and that's where this workplace dissatisfaction came in, that administration wasn't extremely helpful in providing ideas or suggestions and ways to develop a relationship. And then the other big thing I think we can all relate to is you never knew if their student was online. That's what they kept saying. Were they doing their work? So they were all very frustrated.
Very, and we had a policy. We really didn't want to ask them that it was mandatory to put the camera on, because the faculty started worrying about maybe they were living in, a situation where it's not conducive, or if there were people behind them, or if they were sharing space and they didn't want to embarrass people. So we didn't ask them, I asked them, could you put your camera when you're speaking? But even I was reluctant to do that because of the complications of their living situation.
Uh-huh.
And we didn't want to make it mandatory, so we did not make it mandatory. But sometimes the class would be over and the kids would still be in the room. You know, they walked out of the room and they wore their, put their computer on and they left. I mean, but what could you do? You can't, there's only so much that you can do with that.
Yes.
Oh, we can't hear you, Dr. Gray.
Sorry about that. Congratulations again on your new degree, and Michelle, Dr. Gibson,
I know.
and,
It's kind
and
of exciting.
Emmanuel. We hope to call you Dr. Mitzi next time we all
Yes.
talk.
Yes.
I hope so, yes. Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you, everyone. Any other questions, comments? We hope to have the new website up within the next week. So be sure and check it out. I again want to state that we have offered to do a virtual SIEC ISB International Conference in 2023 and an on-ground one in 2024 at Dr. Connors University, Illinois State. Is that correct?
Yep. Yes.
Outside of Chicago. So
We'd
we are
like
going
to
to
be,
do,
we'd like to be in Malta in 25. So
that'd be
maybe
awesome.
Emmanuel.
Yes.
Okay, yes.
Close to Italy where my parents are
Yeah.
from.
Oh, really? Yeah,
That's
that's
beautiful.
what we're trying to work on too.
Well, we can be your virtual committee, Dr. Mitzi. So we're going to need all hands on deck is what I'm saying. And also we need to grow our membership as we have reorganized January of 2020. So, okay. I will see you guys next time. And I did not write down when the next meeting is. I believe it's in January.
Yes,
it's-
it's January 26th, January 26th.
For those of you
And
who are
how
going-
many are going to Vienna? Anyone in here? Okay, Joanne and Emmanuel. And I know Dr. Gray is online. So if you're not going to go, there is a one-day online event. I think, I want to say it's 50-year-old, but I can't remember. But it's, yeah, one-day event, and maybe you want to do that. It is a Friday. Judy, maybe you want to join us for that day. And basically, I just go to see everybody. So
Yeah.
I will be going. So,
For
yes.
those who are going up for tenure or promotion, you know, attending, presenting international conferences is attractive. So a very affordable way to do that. So, okay, well, we'll see you guys either October at the virtual or in person, or in January. And have a great week and month and holidays, I guess.
Yeah.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everyone. Have a good.
Bye-bye.
Thank
Oh, and I
you.
did record this, FYI. If anyone has any issues or doesn't want me to post that, please let me know. Thank you so much. Bye.
Everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.